Donald, Michael, thank you both for making the time. And my first question goes to Donald. Are you really Donald to everybody, or are you like Don to some people once they get to know you?
I'm definitely Donald there, and 100% have been forever.
Same question at
Good
you, Michael.
question.
Are you Mike to anybody, or is it like Michael, the producer?
My name has evolved. When I was a kid, because I was very small, and so I was Mickey. Okay.
Oh.
And then I got a bit older.
You shouldn't have told me that, Michael.
Mick. I was Mick for a while. But Mick usually is like, there's some footballers and builders are called Mick, I think, right? And so then some girl said when I was about 14, no, we can't call you that. You're Mike. All right. So I was Mike. And with my, if I say this, with my first wife, I was Mike, And then when that was over and I met my wife, I wanted to recognize that in some very serious way, and I became Michael. So I'm only Michael.
So
I don't respond to anything else,
Well, Donald, you've had a lot of success in producing not just for television, but also for film. It's usually one or the other when it comes to successful producers. What was it that drew you to this particular project?
Well, two things. One, obviously, Billy the Kid is a fascinating, amazing character. And second was, Michael Hirst. To get to work with Michael on a series was an incredible learning experience for me. And very, very few writer, creator, producers do what Michael does. He writes everything himself, which is an extreme rarity. So the combination of those two things made it really undeniable. And in the world today, it's very fluid, I find, and moving between television and feature films is something that everybody does, whether it's a writer, an actor, a director. It's an exciting time for that reason. Whatever the story dictates, and Michael saw this as something that would ultimately, span hopefully 24 episodes, and so it found its perfect form.
Michael, random question here, but I've read that you've put your daughters into like background hidden roles in a lot of shows that you've worked on. Are they in Billy the Kid at all?
They're not in background roles, actually. Two of my daughters were foregrounded, one in Tudors and no, she was background in Tudors, but she major role as Floki's wife in Vikings, and then another daughter played a very significant role and was still there at the end of the show. But they're not in Billy. But my son Horatio is in Billy, so so I keep it in the family.
Just like the Tudors, the next generation keeps on going. So, Michael, when in this whole process, did you know that Epix was the destination for the show?
It wasn't like that in the sense that Michael Wright and I would have yearly conversations trying to find something we both wanted to do, basically. But for years and years, I was working on Vikings. I mean, that was like 8 years or something, 89 episodes, 8 years. But when that was over, then Michael, seriously asked what I wanted to do. And despite the fact I was born in the north of England, I said, I want to do a Western. And he said, any kind of Western? Have you any idea? I think he'd been working on a Western with Spielberg. And he said, maybe you could pick up the pieces of that. And I said, well, you know what? When I was a kid, I was besotted with Billy the Kid. I always thought I was Billy the Kid when I was 7 or 8, running to school. And I'm not quite sure why, but I wouldn't mind the opportunity of trying to find out why, whether he was worth my hero worship. And so I went on this, and Michael Wright very kindly said, go for it, and so began a journey for all of us, and a journey which involved, I think, initially me demythologizing Billy and then remythologizing him when I found out more about him and how all the cliches about him were wrong.
Well, throwing that topic at Donald here, growing up on Long Island, and I'm, for better and for worse, living on Long Island, my first Billy the Kid experience or understanding was the Billy Joel song, The Ballad of Billy the Kid. So naturally, I'm very misinformed about American history because that song does not really say anything at all. How much about Billy the Kid did you know before working on this series?
I didn't know much. I think I just knew the basics like everybody else knew. He was this incredibly, kind of revered, famous, iconic outlaw who, was the fastest gun in the West and died at 21. My grandfather grew up in Wyoming and he was a cowboy, and I used to visit Wyoming with him every summer. So, you heard all the legends. But really, I learned so much from working on this and Michael's research into Billy the Kid, and he created such a complex, really fascinating character out of him. So it was a great learning experience for me.
Michael, speaking to the quality of the programs that you create and helm, they're very detail oriented. There's emotions, stuff actually happens. It seems like there's not a lot of compromise on your part where you say, this is what's going to happen, and the network kind of knows what they're getting into. Or am I totally wrong about that it goes back and forth and there is a lot of compromise?
Well, it depends what you call compromise. I do research and all the storylines and the characters come out of the research. And basically, when I've done that, I kind of know what I want to say. Mm-hmm. But then there's another part of the whole process. And this is a process that has many different aspects. And even in editing, it's another part of that process. So the first process then for me is writing sort of outlines and sharing those, and giving people like Donald and people involved and Michael Wright the opportunity to comment and things. But it's not really till you get a script, actually, that people can begin to see what you're doing. And then there are different things that come into play. And one is production. It's like, well, we can't do that, or we can't afford to do that, or we don't have that location, we don't have that building. And those are real things. So I'd be a fool not to pay huge attention to that, because the production is just saying we can't do it, so what's the point of me saying you've got to, that would be ridiculous and redundant. So I don't regard that as a compromise. That's just a reality. And then, of course, but then there's discussions about the characters. Are you saying enough or not enough about them? Why have you chosen to show this here? Maybe you don't want to show it, or maybe, and then so there is a lot of back and forth, and the thing is to build up a level of trust that you don't ever feel that the person you're talking to has another agenda. You want to know that the person is as implicated in the show as you are, that is as passionate about what you're doing as you are. And once you've established that, like the relationship I have with Donald, is totally one of complete trust. Is I know, even if I disagree with some of his notes or things that he's saying, I know where they come from, that they're meant to make the show, well, to make the show actually sometimes, because we've only got a limited budget in every case, of course, but also there are big decisions to make about characters. So you go through that, and then actually when the show is being shot and you're seeing the first performances, then there's another conversation that you have about, well, this actor's wonderful, and this character's really, are you going to give this character more? Right. I mean, I have to say that this is universally good cast. Really, I mean, all the way down. And so I could give all of them an extra beat, but the main thing here, of course, is that the Billy's carrying it, because he's in just about every scene. And we found the perfect Billy. We found the Billy that is perfect for me, because he's my idea of Billy. It's a very sensitive, very moral, young man, and who we haven't seen before as Billy the Kid. You know, I mean, who knew that Billy the Kid had this beautiful singing voice and played musical instruments, and you know.
Well, thank you both so much for the information, your time, and looking forward to whatever is next, whether it's more Billy the Kid or just other great productions. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Darren. Okay.
Take care.
Paltrocast.